a weakened Prime Minister terrified of facing Canadians. So if he's so sure about his own leadership, if he's so sure about his own plan, why won't he allow his own MPs to have a free vote on this one today?
As predicted, today's question period was focused around Bill C-78, the GST holiday. However, something very significant happened after question period that we were not expecting.
Let's take a look.
This weak Prime Minister has lost control. He's lost control of immigration, lost control of our borders. And now we're facing massive threats to our economy. Right now, there are as many as 500,000 people here illegally. There are 700,000 students who came here with the implicit promise they'd be able to stay forever, and now they're being told they have to leave with the temptation that they might head south for the much stronger economy than we have here, which would provoke a massive retaliatory tariff. So what's the plan to reverse all the damage the Prime Minister's done?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hundreds of thousands of people come to this country every year and then leave. They're called tourists. Hundreds of thousands of people come here as temporary residents and then they leave. Some become permanent residents. There is a plan to achieve that. They will migrate into permanent residency, but not all can stay here. And when they refuse to do so, they will be removed. But you can't make this up, Mr. Speaker. What the member opposite, the leader of the opposition, is doing with the member of Edmonton Millwoods is going around to these people, pandering to them, promising them to have visas and promising not to deport them. That is highly irresponsible and it's incompetent.
The Liberals were doing this like last week, where they were, you know, saying that they could accept people and that people could stay and this and that, and treating these fake colleges as a way to permanent residency. This is a joke.
Yeah, and Trudeau even said this as part of his little dad immigration talk that we covered, where he was saying, oh, well, you know, some of these people are going to, you know, apply for permanent residency. Some of these people are going to apply for asylum.
Yeah, they're expecting something like 14,000 students to be applying for asylum.
Yeah.
Because once their schools ended, they have to go home. Whereas previously, to get them here, they were told, oh yeah, this is a path to permanent residency to becoming Canadian.
100%. And that's why you saw a lot of them protesting in Prince Edward Island, because they were taking advantage of loopholes in Prince Edward Island, and people in PEI are like, what the hell's going on here?
But it's not just in PEI, it's happening all over the country.
Yeah, everywhere. And it's funny because Pierre specifically said there's as many as 500,000 people who are here illegally. What's Mark Miller's response? Well, there's hundreds of thousands of people that come here every year. They're called tourists. Tourists don't come here illegally.
500,000 people. That's the size of the city of Hamilton, roughly.
Yep.
So could you imagine just somewhere in the country, there's a group of people the size of the city of Hamilton that are refusing to go back to their country of origin.
Right. And, you know, that's kind of a problem.
Mr. Speaker, that member hallucinates almost as badly as his weak leader, who refuses to stand and answer for his own border failures. Let's look at his record. He opened Roxham Road. He kept it open for a year longer than the Americans required. He put out a tweet saying, welcome to Canada, inviting people to come here illegally. According to that minister's department, there are 500,000 people here illegally, all of whom could be tempted to go south of the border, provoking a massive retaliatory response. So once again, what's the plan to fix what he broke?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees.
Speaker, we'll tweet out the video of him pandering to people, entertaining false hope, promising visas to everyone, promising they won't get deported. That's highly incompetent. Worse than that, Mr. Speaker, is he's refusing to get his security clearance. That is irresponsible for any purported leader of this country, any responsible person in politics. He needs to grow a pair, get the briefing.
Now that's unparliamentary.
Yeah, I would say so. And you notice how Mark Miller, always tries to talk like the tough guy, right? Like he says it to Kevin Wong. Now he's saying it to Pierre.
He's a bully. He really is.
Yeah, and you can tell just by the way he carries himself, right? No wonder he's Justin Trudeau's, buddy and was in his wedding party, if the shoe fits.
Right.
But this is the thing. So he's talking about this video. I haven't seen this video. Don't even know if it exists. But if it exists, maybe we'll take a look. But here's the thing. You have 500,000 people here illegally. And Pierre's right. One of the U.S.'s concerns is that these people are going to come south. And the other concern is that some of these people may be terrorists based on our very poor record of allowing terrorists into this country.
Well, because due to our open border policies, we're not really vetting people, especially people who claim asylum, as it sounds. So, I mean, the Americans are concerned that people are coming into Canada claiming asylum or maybe just coming here through other means, not being vetted properly, and then they're going down to the States to enact violence.
And it's a legitimate concern.
Now, in regards to the security clearance, this seems to be the Liberals' new abortion argument. Whenever they can't think of something and want to shut the Conservatives up, they bring it back to pure security clearance. We've dissected this many times before, and you can go and check out our older videos for a full in-depth explanation. But right now, Pierre's options are essentially, number one, get the security clearance, find out who's on that list of 11 MPs, and then do absolutely nothing.
For the rest of his life?
Right, for the rest of his life, because this is one of those secrets that you die with. Or option two is that he waits a few months, becomes prime minister, gets top security clearance anyways as prime minister, is then able to see those names, and then can do whatever he wants with it.
Right, because here's the thing. Even if he gets the clearance now, and learns those names, and then he becomes prime minister later, the problem is he's already bound for life per the previous agreement.
Right.
So it doesn't matter.
Right, so just wait a few months. It's not going to take long.
There is a large flexibility that the Speaker gives, of course, to the language that's used in here. But I think that might be beyond the border. I'm going to ask the Honourable Minister if he could just withdraw those words.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw those words. On a day like this, I would say he's all flannel and no axe.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, once again shows the erratic, out-of-control government we have over there. His Prime Minister is hiding from questions. His Minister is losing control of his words and his mind. This is a government that is falling to pieces. The Prime Minister has lost control of the border, lost control of immigration, lost control of our finances, and now lost control of his caucus, who are saying that they've been intimidated into voting in favor of his tiny tax trick. He's lost control, but he's holding on to power.
Isn't projection a wonderful thing?
But, Pierre is absolutely right that this government has lost control, and they shouldn't be the government anymore. They're no longer serving Canadians.
No, and after this vote today, guess what's going to happen? We're going right back to privilege, and nothing's going to happen in the House. So, that's the interesting thing here. And if and when the Liberals ever get around to this $250 check, which something tells me it's not going to be voted on this year, unless it's somehow in the fall economic statement. But guess what? That's going to be a confidence vote when that happens. It's going to be interesting.
Well,
but I think it says something that they didn't make this a confidence vote, and they seem to be afraid of a confidence vote now because even they don't know how the NDP are going to go.
Well, I was going to say that they won't call a confidence vote, and I don't even know what the NDP are going to do. They don't seem to follow any type of logic. I mean, if the goal of the NDP is to get Jagmeet Singh his pension, it's only about 3 months away. So why would they call a confidence vote now?
Right.
Why would they go along with a confidence vote now? But also, if they don't go along with a confidence vote now because the House is seized, or it was seized, it's about to be seized very shortly again, we believe, what does that look like? It looks like they're supporting the Liberals, and they need to separate themselves from the Liberals as much as possible before the next election, which theoretically could happen any day.
Right. So all this does is like based on what we've heard from the people that we've talked to, we know what the Bloc is going to do. We know what the Conservatives are going to do. We know what the Liberals are going to do. Nobody in any party knows what the NDP is going to do, just because they are so erratic and everything they do seems to contravene political strategy.
Right. They've hitched their cart back to the Liberals' horse. Ahead of this, they were voting on a motion of closure on debate for this bill, Bill C-78, which is the GST-HST bill. And again, they're teaming up with the Liberals, and they're trying to pass it off as, oh, well, it's good for Canadians, it's this, it's that. Honestly, though, how much money is this going to save?
Well, and this was after, during debate today, that the Conservatives and the Bloc and the NDP, by the way, were raising serious concerns from small business owners, which over 50% of them don't want this.
Right.
Because it's going to cost them hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to actually configure their systems, because, you know, they don't have an IT staff to just go whoop and everything's done.
No, many small businesses have like IT on call, or maybe it's just somebody they know that helps them out. I mean, Ryan used to provide support services for the vet clinic that I worked at. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a really, really hard time for small business owners to try to get everything sorted, figure out what this wishy-washy bill means in terms of what is taxed and what isn't, try to get their systems up to speed, and then in 2 months undo it all.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know what the member is talking about. On this side of the House, we can have conversations, we can have debates, and we don't get shut down from speaking like the members opposite, Mr. Speaker.
That's not what we heard.
Well, I guess Karina Gould didn't read the Toronto Star article where Liberal, I repeat, Liberal Member of Parliament Chad Collins came out and said, oh yeah, I said I was going to vote against the $250 check, and I was threatened with consequences. So that doesn't sound like, oh, people on the Liberals, they're allowed to say whatever they want, and, you know, and they're not muzzled and all of this stuff. Meanwhile, the Liberal MP went on to say everything that Trudeau is saying in the House about the Conservatives is exactly the opposite. It happens with the Liberals. So maybe you should actually look at your own bought and paid for media sometime, Karina Gould.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, as we see every Christmas when things get going again, the Liberals woke up just the other day and said, hey, we're going to send out $250 checks. But the NDP noted that they forgot a lot of people, seniors, persons with disabilities, people who aren't able to work. The Liberals panicked, and so they pushed that measure back. But, you know, the real question here is, are they going to fix their measure so that they can help people who really need it? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, today is a great day, Mr. Speaker, because we are going to be voting with the support of the NDP for a tax holiday for all Canadians, including seniors. And we'd like to thank them because on the other side of the House, what we're seeing is a Grinch who's going to stay a Grinch and who doesn't want to vote for a tax holiday. So I'd like to thank the NDP because they have a heart like we do for all Canadians, but we're going to continue working with them to make sure that we support all Canadians across the country, Mr. Speaker.
So this is interesting. And if you don't know, Jagmeet Singh had a press conference, I believe it was yesterday, even though he wasn't in the debate. He had a press conference where he was saying, if the Liberals don't include seniors, people with disabilities, and people that weren't working in this $250 check giveaway, then they won't be supporting the Liberals. Now, what does that mean? That means that if and when this debate and this vote happens to come, that means that that will be a confidence vote and the NDP will be voting non-confidence. Now, do we believe Jagmeet?
No.
Who knows?
No.
Who knows?
His word's worth nothing.
Yeah, like
less than nothing.
He could be telling the truth, and we still don't believe him because he's cried wolf so many times.
Right.
So, but I just want to let everybody know that's what was flapping out of his gums at that particular moment, at that particular time.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
After doubling the cost of housing, adding an inflationary carbon tax to everything that Canadians buy, and giving us the highest levels of debt in the G7, the Prime Minister's plan is a temporary, tiny 2-month tax trick. But not even small businesses are fooled. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says that only 4% of small businesses expect a sales boost because of the latest last-ditch effort for the Prime Minister to save his own job. If he's so sure about his plan, why doesn't he call a carbon tax election and let Canadians decide?
Right. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
With respect, the member ought to look at what the Retail Council of Canada has said on the matter, what Restaurants Canada has said on the matter as well, Mr. Speaker. Small business owners in my community across the country will benefit as a result of this tax cut. It's exactly what it is, a tax cut for workers, a tax cut for families. What's also surprising, Mr. Speaker, and I just heard the name, they talked about Aaron O'Toole. That's exactly right. He put this initiative on the table in the summer of 21. We're supporting it now. You know who else supported it? The Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker. He reposted a tweet from Aaron O'Toole at that time, but doesn't want to support it now, Mr. Speaker.
It seems so small and meaningless now. Like, I mean, look at me. I spent almost $85 on groceries the other day, and I got back $2. Or I didn't get it back because actually it's not running right now, but I would have gotten back $2 for HST and on an $85 grocery bill. Like, it's not a lot of money, and it seems like an awful lot of work to make these poor shopkeepers go through just for 2 months. If you want to do something meaningful like Stephen Harper did and reduce the GST by 2% permanently.
Well, you know, and they bring up Aaron O'Toole. So what? So what? Aaron O'Toole isn't the leader of the opposition right now, and it's amazing. This is the problem with the far left. They think that you actually never learn from any mistakes that you make. You never learn, and you never evolve your thinking. That's why they cancel you for things that you've said 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is the issue with the Liberals, but they don't want to talk about the fact that they voted against that with Aaron O'Toole. So why did you vote against it then, and you don't support it now?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. You know, we don't have all the time in the world to make all of the mistakes for ourselves. We have to see what the people around us are doing and the mistakes that they're making so that we don't repeat those mistakes. In this case, it sounded like a mistake that Aaron O'Toole had tried to put forward this initiative a few years ago, and now the Liberals are trying to put it forward again.
Right. So the Liberals were calling it out back then. Conservatives have obviously learned the lesson, but all the Liberals have learned is to actually commit that mistake. That's basically what they're doing. And the Conservatives are saying, listen, why are we bothering to do this? You're going to be costing small businesses thousands of dollars to actually do this. None of them want it. And all you're going to be doing is raising the tax for everything in April. Like this is not a meaningless increase. So it's this, you know, the shell game, smoke and mirrors that they're trying to move around. And what do they want to give you on the first month of that increase? A $250 check, hoping you won't notice.
Right.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, this isn't a tax cut. It's a distraction before a much, much bigger permanent tax hike. Even his own Liberal MPs are now opposing this. The member from Hamilton East Stony Creek says that he was threatened with, quote, consequences if he voted against it. Rather than threatening his own MPs, muzzling them like he's accused others of doing, we have a weakened Prime Minister terrified of facing Canadians. So if he's so sure about his own leadership, if he's so sure about his own plan, why won't he allow his own MPs to have a free vote on this one today?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Workers going for groceries, Mr. Speaker, who want to eat out, who want to buy gifts during Christmas, Mr. Speaker. That's who's on our mind, Mr. Speaker. Families who want to buy diapers for their kids, who want to buy kids' clothes. That young family who's excited about a new child coming into the family, Mr. Speaker. Car seats are expensive. There's a tax savings on that too, Mr. Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition supported this initiative in 2021, but doesn't want to now because it's a Liberal initiative. Will the real Pierre Poilievre stand up in this House of Commons?
So I think the thing on this list that raises my eyebrows the most is the diapers, because kids don't just need diapers for Christmas. They need diapers year round. And it makes me wonder why they didn't take the GST or HST off of them permanently, especially when you consider that in all federal buildings, men's washrooms are required to have menstrual products. I'll say it again. The men's washrooms are required to have menstrual products.
Yep.
How much is the government paying for that?
Lots.
Maybe they should just, ditch that program and then use the money that they're saving to take the GST off of kids' diapers.
Common sense.
The Honourable Member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
Turning temporary 2-month tax tricks won't save this desperate Prime Minister. After doubling housing costs, doubling the national debt, doubling food bank usage, now he's blaming Canadians for not feeling the vibe of this pricey gimmick. Now he's even threatening his own Liberal MP from Hamilton East Stony Creek for not supporting this vote-buying scheme. Instead of threatening MPs to take cents off Skittles, call a carbon tax election now so common-sense Conservatives can axe the tax for good.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I know the Leader of the Opposition knows a thing or two about threatening his own MPs, because if they don't speak in 3-word slogans, we never hear from them again. But, Mr. Speaker, what I can say is that on this side of the House, we are excited to deliver a tax cut for Canadians. And for the mom who has to buy diapers and groceries and a car seat, this is meaningful for her, Mr. Speaker. Who it's not meaningful for is the Leader of the Opposition, because when it comes to supporting everyday Canadians, he would rather support himself than give them a break over the holidays. That's so disappointing, and Canadians across this country are disappointed in him. Thank you.
I get so frustrated listening to these Liberals talking about how they're so generous in giving us a break over the holidays. You guys were the ones that screwed up our economy in the first place, and that's why we're paying like $2 for an apple.
Well, and you should have heard them. You should have heard them in debate, and I believe I even have a clip. And so if I do have the clip, you'll see it shortly, where they are being challenged on how much it's going to actually cost small businesses, and the Liberals' response was, "They'll figure it out."
I'm rising to ask a question on behalf of a business owner in my constituency who has 3 dollar stores. He has about 3,000 items per store that he'll have to change. Given 30 seconds per item to go through, that's 90,000 seconds. That's 1,500 minutes. That's 25 hours. Between 9 p.m. that night and 9 a.m. the next morning, he has to pay somebody 25 hours, likely overtime. So we're going to call that $30 an hour times 750 hours is $1,500 per store, because he's got to pay them to do it. To take the GST off, put the GST back on, times 3 stores, it's $4,500. What's the government going to do to put $4,500 back into this business owner's pocket that he has to pay for their bad idea?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I'm happy to know that employees who work in these businesses get $30 an hour in income. So, once again, I think that our business owners will find a way, with all the systems they have at their disposal, to make the changes that are necessary, because it's important.
Of course, because they don't care about small business. They don't even care about Canadians. They just care about looking good. That's all. But you know what? I think Canadians are just so tired of this government that most of us don't care about this GST rebate.
Well, it's obvious that the Liberals don't care about small businesses and what this is going to do. And CTV just released a news article that Tanya found where it says small businesses are having, a nightmare of a time figuring out how to put this in. So nobody wants this. Most people have done their Christmas shopping, and the people that haven't probably can't afford to buy much anyway. And then you have people that are going to go to the grocery stores, allegedly going to saving all this money. Well, that's a lie. We've already found that. We got an email from a viewer saying their $460 odd some odd dollar grocery bill, and they paid, what, $5 in GST? So what is this huge savings that you think that they're going to get?
You know what I was just thinking? This is not only going to be a nightmare for small businesses, this is going to be a nightmare for accounting as well. I mean, the way that GST and HST collection works is you can either collect the money for the government and remit it or give it to them once a year, or you can give it to them once per quarter. What's going to happen is businesses are going to have to be selling these items. Like, let's say they're selling a children's toy for $100 just to keep the numbers even. And they're supposed to collect 13% HST on that. So they're supposed to get $13 on that to then give to the government when they remit. What's going to happen now is that they'll get that toy, they'll sell that toy for $100, they'll take 0% in HST. And then when they go to have to do their books, they have to figure out based on the dates, okay, was there tax that I have to remit on this item, or was there not tax that I have to remit on this item to the CRA? It's going to be a nightmare for accountants as well.
Well, it's also going to be a nightmare if certain provinces agree and certain provinces don't.
Is it up to the provinces, or are they just saying...
Where it's HST in there, the province has to agree to actually take it off.
Or is the federal government just going to strong arm them into losing that money? Like, do we even know yet?
We don't know. Like what could happen is the government will say, well, fine, we're just going to take the GST portion out of the harmonized sales tax and you collect the rest. But this is going to be an absolute nightmare because certain provinces are saying, no, this is stupid.
Yeah,
so,
why should they have to lose the sales tax? Because it's harmonized.
Like PEI is one of them that's saying, we don't get a lot of money as it is, so we rely on this stuff.
Right.
Because guess what? Provinces have a thing called a budget. And the budget relies on revenue coming in. So, but this is the thing. The Liberals don't give a crap.
No, again, they make policy from a podium, whatever they think makes them look good, and everybody else can worry about the details later.
And if you're against it, you're a horrible person.
The honourable member for Dauphin, Swan River, Nipawin.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister's radical environment minister is willing to drive Canada's economy into the ground with no remorse. The carbon tax will cost the Canadian economy $25 billion by 2030. In the face of 25% tariffs, the minister can do something. He can cancel his planned quadrupling of the carbon tax. If the minister is unwilling to protect our economy, will the Prime Minister at least allow Canadians to protect our economy and call a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister for Order. The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
The Conservative Party of Canada, when it comes to many things, including climate change, is extremely reckless. This is the party that's let the people of Jasper down, Mr. Speaker. For 4 consecutive years, they invested nothing to protect Jasper from forest fires from 2011 to 2015. Zero hectares of fire removal, 0 hectares of mechanical removals to prevent forest fires. They let Jasper down. Now they want to let the Canadians down in the face of climate change. Not on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
That's disgusting that he would invoke the memory of Jasper like that.
Yeah, especially when there's evidence, clear evidence, and we've shown it on the channel in previous episodes before, that his office had essentially canceled all of the control burns that would have prevented the catastrophe that happened in Jasper. And he's trying to say it's the Conservatives' fault that Jasper burned.
The Conservatives haven't been in office for 9 years.
Like, this is insane. Like, just think of where the world was in 2015, right? Like, we barely had smartphones in the mainstream. Just think about it. It was that long ago, 10 years. Like 10 years ago, our son wasn't born.
Right.
10 years ago, we weren't married yet.
Yeah, we were. Just barely, though.
Barely.
We're still honeymooners.
Right.
Still, though, a lot changes in 10 years. So why is this Liberal government still blaming the Harper administration for things that they could have spent a decade fixing?
Like last I checked, Jasper burned this year. Last I checked. So what? You're saying that because the Conservatives did nothing, in your words, between 2011 and 2015, that caused the 2024 Jasper fire?
Right. What have you guys been doing the past 9 years? Oh, right. Nothing.
Except taxing the hell out of Canadians. Okay, so something really important happened at the end of question period today. We've been speculating how opposition days would actually get scheduled and happen because of the privilege debate that's been going on. So what has happened is Karina Gould announced that in working with the opposition parties, that there's going to be 3 opposition days next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Furthermore, I would like to inform all honourable colleagues in the House that Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday of next week shall be opposition days. Earlier this week, I shared a unanimous consent proposal with the opposition parties that would pause privilege debate so that the Conservatives and the NDP could have their opposition days next week.
So 2 of those will no doubt go to the Conservatives. 1 of them will no doubt go to the NDP. They're the only opposition party that has any days left, and it's their last one, and the Conservatives will have 1 more after they burn those 2 next week.
Now, let's see if the NDP are still going to waste their opposition day on an abortion motion.
My guess is that they will. And let's also see if the NDP will be voting non-confidence in those 2 days. I assume that's going to be the subject of the Conservative opposition day motions. And let's see what is the actual premise of these opposition day motions. So I am very much looking forward to what's happening next week. I don't know if the government's going to fall. My gut says no, but
it could.
It could, but I think the worst case scenario is that the NDP props up this government yet again, and they're going to have a lot of explaining to do based on why they do.